All right. Here you go.
Go for it.
All right. Welcome to Outside the Draft on No Breakaways. I'm taking over the intro today because Rick is still out of breath from the Surrey Hills course. He's still perspiring, and I think he's still in zone 2 heart rate. But yeah, we got a good show for you today. How do I do this introduction? Jackie's up there. Sarah's presented by Pros Closet.
Forest endurance. And hold on. I've been practicing all week. Noon hydration. Nailed it.
You got it.
Nailed
Yes.
it. I'm so good at this job. This
Okay.
job.
How's it going, Jackie? There, that's how you do it.
Going great. Thank you very much.
I'm checking.
Awesome. And down below, we have Rick of No Breakaways and of Recent Racing. How's it going, Rick?
It's going. I just did Surrey Hills, so it wasn't going very fast. I'm trying to check my heart rate so you all can know how tired I am right now. I don't know how to do it.
I'm Jordan from Elevate Wildplex, Finesse Esports, peakformcoaching.com. And I'm going to stop moderating the show because it's not my job.
It's not what you get paid for.
No.
Yeah, so Surrey Hills, just raced it. Yeah, it was tough. It was a very tough course. I got to admit. I got some stuff to talk about. Hopefully it'll be interesting. But why don't you guys, Jordan, did you watch the Premier League races this week?
I did. And you know what? It wasn't even a chore. Sometimes it's like, oh, I got to watch every minute of these, got to get the notes together. This was pretty friggin' good today.
Really?
Yeah, it was really exciting. And the women were first, and it was, it was predictable. Like I work with Esta, we talked about for some race tactics for Jackie's team. And I said, like, Heino's going to force the race on the first climb and do what they do, right? And that's what they did. And it was really, really forceful. They had it down to 10 riders like that. Yeah. And so they went over the top of the first QOM. Jackie had one teammate out there, Nelson. Courtney Nelson.
Yeah, she had a fantastic ride today.
Breakout ride, and she was the only one that was actually like pushing beyond Heino. But yeah, so it split to pieces, and from there it was just mano a mano, as Dave said 100 times during the broadcast. It was an OSS moment. Only the strong survive. For an hour. And what ended up happening was they had all the split groups. Heino had the race wrapped up before it was even started, basically, because everybody just let them take the QM points. And that was the story of the day. I think we'll talk about in both fields, is like the points on those climbs were just, you had the race wrapped up before the finish. You had a strong team, but they forced the pace. But interestingly, Catherine Curry, who had the ride of the day and perhaps the ride of the season, we'll talk about that later, she got dropped, and then she got dropped again, and she was in the third group on the road. She railed the descent off the second QOM, caught up to the second group, then on Box Hill, bridged across solo to the lead group, and then they didn't do anything to drop her, and we all know she's an amazing sprinter. So she just kind of just sat there the rest of the race, and it's like they forgot about her. They didn't realize she came back or something. She just sat there, and the whole time I'm thinking, somebody's got to do something. She's going to win. She's going to win. And she would even gap herself off. She had the confidence to come back. All the things we talked about strategically, absolutely perfect. And went up the final climb. There was some efforts. Nelson did a nice little push over the top, but Curry took it going away. And Heino won the race by quite a bit on points. But yeah, it was so exciting. Because like we talked about, it was like the race wasn't on a script at all. It was back and forth the whole time. There was riders that made that first split that ended up getting dropped to the top 10 and vice versa, obviously. So that was the women's. And I don't know, Jackie, you were doing medical research at that point.
Yep, I was going off, and I was at a research conference, so doing much different things.
I do have to interrupt. We did not introduce Jackie appropriately.
Dr.
Jackie Godby, MD, PhD. Yes. It's official now. It's official now.
Official.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
This podcast now bills out at over $1,000 an hour for everybody watching.
Yeah.
So, or this,
Luckily,
Oh, yeah.
luckily, I make that no problem with the
yeah,
broadcast. Yeah.
we talked
Yep.
about that.
Yeah.
So,
It's really the big
um,
bucks just rolling in here. So
yeah, like we don't even, yeah. This is the only hour I work all week. It's just that lucrative. Um, but the men's field, it was predictable in the first part. It didn't break apart. It was kind of more attritional. Um, and it got down to 10 sort of halfway through the race. 10 was like the number, though. It was like 10 to 12 on both fields. That was all. Eventually got down to even less. But we had a ride for the ages, too. Tim Van Diemen, and he was a demon today. This guy attacked like, yeah, I know. Well, Dave missed that, right? He was using all his Donkey Kong stuff, all his tropes, and all his sayings.
Dave's
He
so
didn't
good.
call the guy.
Dave's so
Yeah,
good.
but he didn't say the guy was a demon, and he was. He attacked 3 times, and then on the final climb, he just decided like he didn't want to wait around and just went as hard as he could the whole time, and won by 5 seconds. And that was like kind of the story at the end of both of these races is like people were blown up. We hit that final climb, and you're expecting fireworks, and Rick didn't have fireworks either. I'm expecting. But like on the women's side, they just kind of rode together too, because everybody was wasted. I think everybody was very afraid that if they made that extra move, that was it. And on the men's side, they just bided their time. And this guy he didn't do incredible numbers or anything like Ovet and the Tungles can do these numbers, but he just took the risk and that was it. He had too big a gap over that roller. And so he took his first win. I think Movistar's first win on the men's side. So that was big.
Nice.
And even though BZR, the team of Tungles, got a couple riders in the top 7, and Canyon didn't make the front group, Canyon got enough points on the KOMs that they won, and then they won the series. So defending champions defended on both sides, but hey, it was a lot more exciting than last season at the end. So yeah, really good. Best race. We said it was going to be the most interesting, and it was. It was really good.
Yeah, it was probably super interesting to watch. It was
And
less
correct
interesting
me
to
if I'm
ride.
wrong. They changed the point structure for the intermediate points as well, such that there was more of a gap between first and second, such that you were really motivated to be, in that number 1 slot, like getting 15 points as opposed
Good.
to 10 for second. And I think that's something that's really going to motivate teams to up their game for those intermediate finishes. Heino's been capitalizing on this all along. And when they made their, sort of tactical error in Paris a couple weeks ago, it was because they had deprioritized these intermediate segments. And I think this new point structure where we're really incentivizing not only, points going relatively deep in the field, but we're incentivizing being first or being second, not just being anywhere in there. I think that's gonna
Yeah.
be a very interesting new development, and I think we're gonna see a lot more movement now as the finish is less important than getting, maybe 1 or 2 of those intermediate sets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's been ZRL the whole time. And I mean, it makes it so much more interesting because, I mean, we had guys where their entire tactic was like on cobbled climbs was to blitz Libby Hill the first time and then sit up and ride slow and wait for the pack to come back around and then blitz 23rd the next time and try to get fastest through and try. I would love to see that stuff in Premier League. It would make it so much more interesting.
Yeah, it was already it was cool because it opened up the finale, right? The Canyon had already played their role, Heino had already played their role, and it opened it up for the actual win too. And I guess another note too is like the climbs were great, but really what made this good was the small groups. Like the fact that it was only 10 riders up front and there was constant back and forth because the group draft wasn't that strong and you had to actually make decisions like, am I going to pull that back? Who's going to pull it back? That sort of thing on both sides. And so yeah, we talked about that a little bit and like the changes that maybe we'd like to see in the top level of this, and maybe some smaller starting groups would be good, because we don't need it to be hilly to blow it apart like every time to make the small groups. But yeah, a group of 10 or 20 is certainly a lot more exciting to watch than 100.
And it's a little more intimate too,
Yeah.
from the women's side, definitely, I'm much more used to smaller starting fields. And it is a lot of fun when you know you've got this group of 10 and you aren't just thinking, okay, statistically, what are they going to do? You can go through the field and I know, like, okay, Curry, she's going to go for the sprint. All right, Alice Lethbridge, she has the watts to just go on forever, but is she really going to be that top end sprinter? And so, I think that does add a lot. It certainly adds an element of strategy to it. It adds an element of, competition and respect,
Mhm.
because if you see those same athletes time and time again, you learn from them and you respect the hell out of their strengths, to be completely honest.
Makes the yeah, it makes the broadcast better too because when they do their camera focus on the one rider, it's like, oh, there they are in the group and there they are flogging themselves on the trainer. And it actually makes like it's really direct in what you're seeing. Whereas when it's the big blob, you're like, where is she in there? It's good. I don't know how you facilitate that every time, but it certainly was like this is what Zwift racing can be good at. It's very intimate, like you said.
I mean,
Well, more 6-on-6 grudge matches.
Love six on
Hosted,
six.
let's
yeah.
do
We
it.
love
Set it up. Saris v. Hino. I love it. Just
Oh,
putting it out
boy.
there,
God.
Jackie. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
I think it goes with, so, I mean, I obviously rode the course. I am not showered. I am disgusting, and I mean, I got killed today, just killed. But I think what this did is it really did show, it allowed other people to show their strengths. It allowed different riders to win. We had a guy in the B1 race, Chris Carvalho, who he's a little tiny climber, and he is an absolute killer climber, just a killer. He rides out in California. He can climb with like some of the Legion boys and stuff like that. I mean, he's a good climber, but he's a little tiny. So all year he's just been, and he just animated. I am told, because I couldn't see, because the fight for 46th was heated. He was able to animate the race, right? I mean, he was up there. He was pushing it. I mean, he won one of the climbs by 20 seconds. He won the race by 13 seconds. It allowed different things to happen, just like we've been talking about. And I don't think every race needs to be like this, because you're going to have people like me, maybe not. I don't want to just go get Sheldon 46th every single time. But like, you should allow people with huge engines that maybe they're just not gigantic sprinters, like the chance to do some of this stuff. So it just goes to having a mix, like anything else. You know what I mean?
Well,
We've been
we
talking
can give
about,
them we can give the organizers kudos for having a pretty good mix this season.
yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
it didn't fall flat at all. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talk a lot about how to like mix it up and stuff. And yeah, definitely kudos to WTRL. This was a great season. I'm looking forward to the playoffs to see what happens. We don't even know the playoff courses. Hopefully my team made it. Also, kudos to Z-Sun today in the B1. They had guys all over the place pushing the pace, trying to fight their way into the playoffs. It was pretty cool. And that's like another really neat thing about the ZRL side is
Playoffs, yeah.
Yeah, well, Z-Sun was like 5 points behind. And so they just took it to the field. They were pushing it. They weren't letting guys catch back on. They were, and I mean, I'm speaking, of course, about one race, but like it allows for these different kind of things on a course like that. So,
Yeah. And that's striking, isn't it? Like, because the playoffs are so cool. Like, we didn't actually do them for Finesse. I guess they kind of canceled them at the end of season 2. But they're so cool because it's a grudge match between 3 teams or 4, the top 3 or 4. And
it's going to be the top 2 from each number 1 division go to the playoffs. So must be 6.
But anyway,
yeah,
just the combination, the meeting of that. It's like, why can't we have something like that in the Premier League? Because that sounds like the most exciting race of all.
Yeah,
a playoff. So
I want to do a 6v6 match race tournament for all the categories.
Oh,
the Premier teams, that'd be great.
Little March Madness style.
If you know Ryan McGee, send him a message and tell him let's do this.
I'll do it right now.
Me and Ryan have been messaging about it for a while. It takes a lot of setup, but it would be so fun, have like a Premier League ABCD for men and women, like be so awesome. It'd be really cool. But anyways, Well, I'm glad we liked the course. I know I had fun riding it. I mean, even though it was so hard and didn't play to any of my strengths, it was still fun to do. I mean, it's nice to have those sort of challenges. Something I added to our agenda. I don't know if either of you saw it. I want to talk about bike choice for a second.
Yep.
Because
Okay.
so I did my video. Turns out my bike choice was wrong. The Tron was the pick for this course. And I
Mhm.
got to admit, I do not understand why Zwift even has bikes if this type of course doesn't take a climbing bike.
Right.
Like, I
Yeah,
don't,
no.
like, I'm not trying to complain about it. It's just like, like when I looked at everything, I was like, everything's going to be decisive on the climbs. Like, why would you want an aero bike?
So I actually have a little bit of an issue when people say this is the bike for this course. So when we go to Zwift Insider and they run all their tests, first of all, we have to realize that, they're doing it with a standard like body size. And so if you're significantly not that 75 kilogram rider that they're simulating everything with, like the bike is either the weight of the bike is either going to be proportionately more or proportionately less for you.
Yeah.
If you're a 100 kilogram rider, like the little bit of difference in a bike frame,
Makes
is
total
really
sense.
gonna, does not
Yeah.
make a difference. And similarly, if you're a 6'4" rider with Zwift's aerodynamics, the aero profile of the bike is gonna make a little bit less difference. So
Yeah.
that's just like overall, you do have to take their recommendations with a grain of salt. The other thing, you said this is a climbing preliminary course, and we just gave Curry like amazing kudos for like the way she attacked down hills. And that's my other big issue with the way Zwift Insider runs these simulations is they're not running them in a race where you're saying, here's where I'm going to draft, here's where I'm going to downhill. This is going to be one on a sprint finish. I need the best sprinting bike, even if, 40% of the hill is 40% of the course is on a hill. Like I can hang. I don't need that extra 0.5% to climb. I need the extra 0.5% on that flat finish.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So I think there is still a lot of art to picking a bike. And a lot of it is recognizing how well you match up with that simulated avatar in terms of your racing style, in terms of, your just physique, and how much is thinking about the race and what's going to be important and what do I need.
Right. No, it's a really that's dead on. Yeah, because riding at a steady 300 watts is a totally different inertia and everything in terms of every time you accelerate that bike up a hill, the weight matters quite a bit,
Yeah.
right? Whereas if you're just steady, then it matters a lot less. And yeah, I always think about it as like where am I going to make this race or where am I going to get dropped? And it's like, depending on the course, one
Yeah.
matters more than the other. And that's what I picked the bike on. It's like if it's going to be a 10% section that's, on this climb where I have to accelerate, I want the light bike. So I don't think your choice is actually wrong, Rick. I think in this course, that's the same. Is like where you're going to get dropped and where you're going to make the break is probably on the steepest part of these climbs. And so the climbing bike might be the right choice.
So, I mean, here's what I wonder. The difference between the Tron, which is kind of like a cheat code bike, but the difference between the Tron and the absolute best climber up a, let's say Fox Hill, it's under 1 second, like
Yeah.
1.9 seconds. In real life, are these bikes, well, there's no Tron, but like if you rode a Tarmac Pro with a Milstein lightweights, I don't know how good a setup that actually is outside. I'm assuming it's very good. Versus if I rode like a Venge S-Works, is the difference really like 3 seconds if I rode the exact same wattage up a hill like that, up a 6-7 minute hill?
So there's a rule.
I'm more familiar actually with triathlon because that's what I used to do. And so I'm going to speak in terms of A, much longer distances, B, no hills. So if
Yeah.
you're just going in a flat line, like think time trial. If you're thinking, let's call it a 50-mile course, about how long a half iron is, or even, you know what, we'll call it a 40K, your 40K TT, same distance as an Olympic triathlon. What we think in terms of gear like if you put on an aero helmet, that's for me, that would be about 40 seconds. You know, going from absolutely bog standard, like the wheels they sell you with your bike, to the best aero wheels you can get, that's about another 40 seconds, you know, over this hour period.
Mhm.
So when we bring this back to an 8-minute hill going much slower, you know, we're saying, okay, that is, you know, an eighth of the time, and we're not going as fast. You know, it's really not that strange to say, yeah, this is going to be worth maybe 5 seconds.
It should be.
Especially for frames, which arguably make less of a difference
Yeah.
than, you know, wheels and aero helmets. You know,
It should be on a climb. Like you can talk about the straight line. I'll talk about the uphill because there's kind of rule of thumb that you can use. It obviously a million variables, but like on a steep climb, 7% or more, which is Fox Hill we're talking about there. Any of the hills today, really pretty steep. For every kilometer, 1 kilogram costs you 2 to 3 seconds. So a super light bike like the Tarmac with the Millensteins might be 2 kilograms lighter than the Venge quite easily, actually. That could be a 12-pound bike versus a 16-pound bike or a 17. So yeah, 5 seconds might make sense. 3 seconds doesn't sound like enough on Fox Hill, actually, between those two. But yeah, on the flats, it's like very muddled because of drafting and stuff, right? Without those aero enhancements, when are you feeling them? Really, unless your nose is in the wind.
So I'm hoping this summer to get a Zwift bot for no breakaways and get one of those Ant Plus simulators and like a rheostat and vary the wattage and try to ride with Coco Cadence. A guy actually commented on the ride video and he said that it was about 15 watts extra you had to put out if you are on the Tarmac Pro with the lightweights versus the Tron in the draft. And he
Which
said,
is crazy. That
Yeah.
shouldn't be right?
So
That shouldn't happen.
I want to do some, because what I'm concerned about with bike weights, and Eric does an awesome job, and it's amazing. And it's not a criticism at all, but like, I'm only in the draft. Like, I'm never
Yeah.
going to set a KOM or anything like that. You know, so like, my concern is race. That's it.
But you
100%.
might sprint at the end and hit the wind. So then that's when you want the aero bike, right?
If I'm
You.
lucky. But yeah, but that's what I want to know is like, if the Tarmac Pro cost me 15 watts in the draft, I'm never going to use it ever.
No,
Like,
but it just shouldn't. It just shouldn't, because you're completely in the pocket. Your frame, it shouldn't matter at all.
That was my thought too. Is like, and when I was doing my bike choice, that was my rationale. Is I was like, flats and downhills, it doesn't matter. You get yourself with the group first of all in the downhill, and that drove me crazy today. Well, part of it was I couldn't stick with groups, but like, people were like up Box Hill, they're like killing it, trying to break off and it's like, just stick with a group. We're gonna catch these people on the downhill. Just get with a group, you know. And to Jackie's point, I remembered it on my ride. She was talking about the downhills. The art to riding a downhill. I mean, I made 20 seconds on a guy. I made up 20 seconds and I put 20 seconds on a guy on the downhill. Granted, the guy behind me then caught me and beat me by 30 seconds at the end. But we don't need to talk anymore about that.
No, that's not what we're talking about here.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Downhill.
Yeah. But I mean, it is an art. And like, you know, I think people sometimes in bike races, I think they sometimes think it's like a toughness contest instead of a how high can I finish contest. Like,
Yeah.
I actually don't care how fast I can climb Box Hill. What I care about is how high I can finish in this race.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like saying you put in 80 hours a week at the job, and we really want to know how much money you made. Right.
I mean, I was definitely guilty of that. You know, in my first races, I was like, man, you know, I want to have like the highest wattage. Like, I'm thinking of this almost as a workout. And then I was just like, okay, so there are these people that are sitting in my draft pocket and like out sprinting me in the last 10 seconds. Like, and it took me a while to overcome that thinking and being like, yeah, I'm not winning any points by putting out the most watts here.
Mhm.
Like, there is no, you worked the hardest award.
Yeah.
You know, and they're not going to call it you raced the dumbest award. Although I might call it that for my own purposes, but
It'll be
yeah.
interesting if we tackle courses like this again in the next season to see people get smarter about that. Because even at the Premier League level, there was a lot of like towing the bunch along, flexing sort of deal. And like you're hurting other people, but still, you can be smarter than that and potentially, win in the end. So yeah, I think a lot of people are feeling this out. I did have
The flexing
I
and
did
how
have
much
this.
was still imperfect knowledge of how the draft works.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. On the
Because
descent,
this
it
was
was
a small group, we're still only a month into having these new physics.
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's a lot of there's a lot of learning to go. And it's like you almost don't know what to do with yourself. And I know this feeling from real racing is like when you make that selection and it's gone and you look back, there's no one there. It's like, yeah, this is the group of 10. I made it. It's like, so now what? Do I ride the front? Like, do I flex? Like, it's a little bit of a, in your mind, and maybe Hino's used to that because that's all they do. But you could tell that a few riders are like, should I be riding harder right now? I don't know. They'd go to the front and not. And so that it's cool. It's psychological for once instead of, just a script there.
Definitely. All right. So, Jackie, I know we were going to talk about the 3 favorite team names. Do we want to save that for next week?
I did find some awesome team names, but I also got into one league, thought they were killing it, and just found a whole bunch. So I can definitely read you some of the favorite names I had, but you know what? I would also love to hear people submit their own names for consideration.
Yeah, so we're going to read out a couple. We're going to go through and we're going to talk about the best team names we find next week. So if you're watching this, if you find some good team names, if you're on a cool team name, I do want to say one thing before we start. When you look through the women's team names, there's a lot of really cool ones. When you look through the dudes' team names, we're all like, something C. Like, come on. Let's up our game, dudes. Come on. Okay?
Come on.
Mixed. I guess it's mixed teams. Sorry. Mixed teams. Let's up our game. The women's teams are killing it. Go ahead, Jackie. I loved these ones you said.
Yeah, so I was found the women's APAC Division 1B. So again, we're going to get a lot of B names. But my absolute favorite was We Race for Cake. Like, just, I love everything about it. It's honest. It's real. Just beautiful. Fear Nominal, also excellent pun. Just hitting it. And then we had the B names. We had the Bombshells, the Bam Babes, like just really, really solid. So, like I said, I was going out on a mission and I just got distracted by this one league and I was like, you are killing it, ladies. I love these names. They're fun to read.
Perhaps the best thing about these names is like hearing when someone from that team is doing well and Dave has to, and he's in a rhythm with it. He's like, and so attacks from We Race for Cake. And he's like completely thrown by it. So yeah, bring in the better names for next season, people. That's the best part for us watching.
I believe one of the names is Herd of Charging Penguins, I think, somewhere.
Exactly.
Ooh,
which I really like. We're going to have a list next week. Along with congratulations to the playoff. We're going to put your playoff team names up there, but we're going to have a list of the best team names because we love stuff like that. So, yeah. And
whenever we play trivia, I always have a house rule of an extra point to the best team name. You make the moderator laugh, you get an extra point. And although these points won't count for the playoffs, you get bonus points in my heart. Mm-hmm. All of you.
And I feel like you would give extra points for good puns, Jackie.
Oh yeah. Good puns or mentions of desserts, because I'll be honest, that's what motivates me.
So dessert puns is the way to Jackie's heart. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, that sums it up pretty well.
And probably also actual dessert.
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure we're straight. Just making sure. And Jordan, I know you prepared something as well. What you got?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk. We were going to do some top threes here, and so I decided to do top 3 because I've been watching all the Premier League races the whole season because I don't have a day job. So we've just been eating our bonbons, watching the people race, and doing a couple myself. But so yeah, top three moments of this season. And like I only do this because I've actually been inspired to there's top three moments this year. The seasons before this, there really weren't that many great moments where you're like out of your seat. Whereas this time we got some. And so top three, number three was that first race that never happened. And I'll give the moment to both Jackie and to Matt Usborne. I know Ollie Jones won the men's side, but number one, it's cool that Jackie won a race that never happened. And we, and it gave me at least some good stuff to rant about afterwards. So that was a moment. It was kind of shocking too in the days afterwards. Everybody's talking about it. And Matt Usborne getting caught like with 50 meters to go and preserving the no breakaways mantra was very exciting. And
Thanks,
like that
Matt.
kind of it set the stage for the season that it was going to be a bit different with the drafting, with the courses. So that was great. A lot of positivity. Number two is and this was a fight because today changed things actually, but MacGyver and Movistar breaking the streak for Hino. Like, come on, what was it? Was it 18 straight or something ridiculous like that? 14. It was, we were talking the week before. I was saying we need to have a salary cap on ranking points because this is ridiculous. One team always wins, and then they came through and then from the first sprint they were taking it. Movistar, bam, 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 and MacGyver actually won on the finish too to emphatically, take that down. So that was great. And then number one for the season, and recency bias is a thing, but Catherine Curry today, that was a superhero performance. And like I know her history too. She's been a US national road champion back in 2005. Like she knows every trick in the book, probably inside and outside. And she used them all today. And when I saw her come back, I was like, it's an avatar, but you almost see the look on your face like, yeah, it's over now, baby. Like, I got this. Like, you guys made a tremendous mistake and there's nothing you can do now. And that was great. Like, and she finished it off. And yeah, I don't know. I've not really had a favorite rider other than Jackie before in the field, but now I kind of do. So you got competition, Jackie. We got to get you back to full health. So you can go.
Well, I have a good time to rehab this ankle, and we'll be getting back in season.
You can vie for the number one spot next time around. But number one biggest moment was today. Catherine Curry
She was so
outsmarting
tough,
everybody.
so brave, so smart, like triple threat on that. So she absolutely deserves it.
And I gotta say, seems like participating in the no breakaways 6v6 matches as a rider or DS increases your chance, at least on the women's side, of winning a Premier League race. So I'm just saying, you want to win a Premier League race, come and race. And also being on this show seems to help. No correlation with the fact that Jackie probably trains 20 hours a week or something.
It doesn't help at all on the men's side. I've had no success.
Yeah, but you had a breakaway. You were on TV for a long time.
Yet.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm racing next weekend in Washington, D.C. on the road with bands. Yeah,
exciting.
It's going down. Yeah.
You need to come to Illinois. Or Wisconsin. And I'll come see you. And we'll take a picture together.
The Fancy Cup's going to happen in July.
Yep, that's right.
Are you riding that, Jackie?
No, I moved to California in July and have to start being a real doctor.
Mm.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Well,
so I will be taking care of people who crash their bikes during races, but I think for the next 6 months or so, I'm going to have to just focus on training and keeping my racing indoors for now.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been cool to take a picture with all three of us meeting in real life instead of virtually.
One day we'll have to do that. In Illinois, apparently, that's where we have to go.
Yeah, I'm not leaving. No, I'll go out to California or something. Where are you at, Jordan? You're in BC, right?
Yeah, don't come here for a while, man. It's not we're kind of in a little bit of the lockdown state still. You won't enjoy it.
Like, what about St. Louis? I'll be there next year.
Oh, the art show.
Yeah.
And ribs too. I think these are the things I know from St. Louis.
We'll figure out something.
That the Italian food on the hill is to die for, and I've been promised a lot of it by John. So
Let's do
Perfect.
it. Let's do
Make
it.
it happen. And you're all invited. You're invited. And you're invited. And you're invited.
All right, so
No.
big news this week in Zwift, Japan. What do you guys think? Have you ridden it much?
Yes, I have been badge hunting, which is really hard.
Ooh.
3 hour, zone 2 rides to hammer out. You're just like, cool, I'm gonna ride this around 8 times.
Yeah.
I mean, I
That's
don't get me wrong, I love the graphics. I really do enjoy the mix of off-road and climbing.
yep.
I just want something longer because on the 8th circuit, I'm done. I'm like, I can't look at this beautiful hillside anymore. I'm out.
And it is quite the graphics are good, and it's not like tropey Japan. Like I kind of expected like a city circuit or something with all the lanterns and the shops and stuff for it to be like downtown Japan. But this was kind of like Japan I've not thought about, It's like old castle and cool stuff. It was engaging, but yeah, it's short. It's like I've ridden it for 2 hours now and over 2 rides, maybe a bit longer, I guess. But yeah, I'm kind of done with it now.
I just
But
totaled up all my time and I think I'm on 9. Oh God.
yeah, that's a lot. But yeah, I think it's engaging, and I think the long dirt climb is cool. I think it would be cool. There's a couple cool racing circuits I could see in there, like custom,
Oh yeah.
like
I
that
think
Oh yeah.
dirt. Yeah, the dirt climb could be very interesting. Talk
that
about bike
short
joy.
sea to tree segment,
Yeah,
like that's gonna
yeah.
be a fantastic climb. They've definitely got a crit circuit set up in the downtown. Like
Yeah, that
there will
crit
be a
circuit's going to be
lot
cool.
of there will be a lot of
A
cool
crit in the
races.
castle would be great. Yeah, it's kind of like Mario Kart almost looking like the
Ooh,
course in there.
yeah.
So, are you ready for my
Yeah.
prediction?
Mm.
The ZRL playoffs will be on the Japan circuit. That's my
I was gonna
prediction.
say that earlier. I
Cool.
really hope so. I think it
I
would be
hope so, too.
fantastic.
You
Yeah.
can hope, yeah. That'd be a lot of coordination, you'd think, all of a sudden to pick the course just right. But
I'm really excited. I love the Japan course. I love the graphics and stuff. I think the smaller road is interesting. Like, if you have a field of 80 people, you might not be able to get through the pack with the new physics. You might just get stuck if you can't
Really?
ride through. I don't know.
Do they have blocking physics in place? Because I don't think Zwift has done that
it's still
before. Like,
ripped through.
yeah, I
I
was
thought
under the
they did.
impression that they only moved you to the side. Like it was still
But what if you can't
it was
go any
still
further to the side?
one-dimensional.
I
I was under
think.
the impression that that was just a graphics error and it
Oh.
was still one-dimensional tracking, like where you are.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I
It'd
thought
be
physical
it's
blocking and forced braking was more of a different platform that shall not be named here thing.
No, we can talk
Yeah.
about our GT. All right, we can talk about that. There's no worries.
Yeah.
It's no worries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
if
mean, I
they
don't get paid
introduced
by
forced
Zwift or
braking-
something. Like, I don't get any money from anybody. We can talk about whatever we want.
You certainly won't now. With that attitude.
Well, if they pay me a bunch of money, I'll only say Zwift. That'll be the only word I utter for the rest of this thing. But
I think though that those are unique little circuits where we could talk about crits. That Rick is right. They are small roads in that they turn and that the views are obstructed. So it would be interesting to see a pack where you're at the back and you actually can't see the front for most of the race, and you can't see what's going on, and people can't see the breakaway around the corner, and all, like with a heads up display off, especially. That'd be very cool, because that's what happens in real life. Is like you're out of sight, you have a much better chance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that happened. I did it was a race where there was a glitch and you couldn't see any of the riders over on the side, which is what I love, the HUD-less display, the no HUD, but I wish they just had your watts up there. Like,
Right.
I don't like not seeing my watts. Like, I don't need it totally, like, I mean, because when you're riding on the road, you can see your bike. But anyways, so I did a race one time where the right-hand side thing with all the riders, you couldn't see any of it. It was just gone. The whole thing was gone. And I actually wrote a Zwift Insider article about it because it was so cool. We were going so slow because everyone was so afraid. It was on Innsbruck and there were 3 laps of it. And I was racing with this guy, Greg O'Malley, who I've raced with 100 million times. Phenomenal racer. But I knew him and we'd raced together a bunch of times. And so I I messaged him and I was like, last time on the leg snapper, do you want to try to make a break? And he was like, we're going to have to go out. And so we just bombed the leg snapper and no one followed because they couldn't see the gap to us. And they thought we were going to blow up. They were afraid. And so then the two of us TT'd off the front to the finish. You know, so that's where I started actually coming up with the name for the channel, was at that point. But like, it was super cool. And that sort of thing. I mean, there's so much potential because you can't see what your competitor, like if I'm riding with Jordan and I know he's doing 4 watts per kilogram and I'm right behind him, I'm like, well, I can do 3.2, 3.3 and I'm fine. Like he's never going to drop me ever. But if Jordan's just riding hard and I'm at 3.2, 3.3 or at 3.0 and I'm like scared, you know, I'm either going to put in too much effort or be like, well, I can't hang with this guy.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, I'll be completely honest. I use that heads-up display like a crutch.
Same.
In terms of knowing, like, is this brake going to stick? Like, I'm looking at those, you know, seconds behind, seconds ahead. I'm looking at their watts per kilo to know, like, okay, I'm blowing up, but this is fine. So is everybody else. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and without that, you know, history of real world racing, you know, I would look at the Zwift screen if I didn't have that and be like, I have no idea how many seconds that is.
Yeah.
Like that would be a very, very different style of race. Absolutely interesting. And, you know, definitely throw that in there in terms of like new races and new things to try. But I would 100% be one of those people that would just be like, panic, what's going on?
Well, that's like even today in my race up Fox Hill at the end, there was a guy chasing me and he started like 30 seconds back. And so I was metering my effort because I could see his watts per kilo. Like it'd be cool to be able to see how far back he was, like you have a virtual DS sort of thing. But I was like, well, if I go this fast, he's not going to catch me. And then at the top of the hill, he starts going 4 or 5. So then I matched him at 4 or 5. So like that dude, he rode better than me today, but I still beat him. But you know, like if I didn't have his watts per kilo, it would have been much more interesting for him with everything. You know, so like it would have just been cool in that.
Things to try. And the Japan course looks like a fertile ground to try things because there's some new elements in there.
Yeah. All right. Jackie's tactic of the week. And I got to tell all the viewers, Jackie has like a million awesome things to talk about here. So we basically have outside the draft lined up for the next 6 or 7 years. So yeah, let's get into this one. And you're going to have to tell me what that one word means because I've never heard it before.
Yeah. So now that I have that MD, I get to nerd out a little bit more. And you know, I am sponsored by Noon, and I've talked a lot about in-race nutrition, how you really need to get that sugar on board, you really need to hydrate. This one's actually fun because it has to do with sugar and with what you drink, but has absolutely nothing to do with nutrition. It's actually something called the pre-cephalic phase. So pre meaning before, cephalic meaning your head. And this actually has to do with essentially tricking your body into thinking that you're going into tricking your body into thinking that it's about to get sugar imminently. And so, you know, this is actually based off of 2 observations. And the first set of observations was that athletes doing swish and spit, you know, with Gatorade or with the sugar solution had a significantly increased ability to do these efforts, whether or not they were fed or, you know, fasting. And they increased their performance by about 5% in terms of FTP and max power output, as well as just decreased their overall sense that they were fatiguing. And this was just swish and spit, you know, put water in your mouth, put sugar water in your mouth, spit it out. You're not getting any sugar. Your body's not getting any help. But by tasting that sugar, your brain's like, aha, I'm getting fuel and everything will be great. And anybody who's ever had, you know, a decaf coffee, I'm sure has had this experience before where your brain is just like, oh, thank God, I've needed this caffeine. Like everything's going to be better now. And then 5 minutes later, it figures it out. And it's like, what did you do? I gave you 5 minutes of like extra alertness, extra energy for nothing. And it's not just sugar you can do this with. This was actually posted on our team channel last week. Apparently, just drinking pink water or using a pink water bottle can do the same thing because, our brains associate pink with being very, very sweet, lovely American diet, lovely candy stores, such that you can get a very similar effect to that swish and spit, improvement of 5% in your performance, because your brain looks at that and says, aha, I'm going to get candy. Everything will be great in 5 minutes. And you get a free performance boost.
Are you sure this wasn't Anna just talking about what looks good?
I actually pulled up, so it was on Science Alert. It hit the pop press circuit actually pretty well. But I did pull up some of the original articles because I still have access to those through my Northwestern account. And I think it's interesting,
It is pretty
so
fascinating.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
Well, I just have to say one thing is that I looked at these notes and I looked at, and this is why I was laughing. It wasn't at you, Jackie. Precephalic. I Googled that, and that is actually most commonly a term used with childbirth, as in before the baby's head comes out. And so I looked up precephalic phase, and I saw that, and I was like, Jackie is either a genius or she's completely lost the plot, because I don't know what we're talking about. So I'm so relieved, actually, that we're talking about drinking and spitting. But yeah, I've heard this. This was kind of big news when I was taking kinesiology too. These studies, but it does help a lot, actually. And people make this mistake in the last part of races. They, like, 20 minutes to go, they're like, oh well, the sugar will never get to my bloodstream in time to actually help me, but I'm feeling like crap. But they're like, well, there's no point to have a gel or something. It actually can turn things around dramatically for you. Same with electrolytes. If you feel like you're cramping and it's like, oh, my sodium levels are already so low or whatever, with however it's working, just tasting the pickle juice can bring you out of the cramp, because your body's like, oh yeah, this stuff's coming in. We're going to be fine, like Jackie said. So yeah, it's just it's more reason to fuel yourself. I don't think we're suggesting you spit on the floor, but in any circumstance, if you're struggling, get the sugar coming in, because mentally, psychologically, it's big.
Especially at the end of big races like today, if you're going for that over an hour long and you're like, oh God, I have another British Hill coming up. Yeah, go ahead, take a little sugar. Like, just mentally, it's gonna help, and it will prepare you to chase somebody like Curry to the line.
So I have a question. Are you saying that I need to drink sugar the whole time to kind of like maintain this thing and that my body thinks is coming? Or if I do this like before a race or like right when it starts and then I don't drink any sugar, am I going to crash like 10 minutes into the race?
Probably hard.
Depends on the race. Like, this is very, very time sensitive. So when we eat, first we eat with our eyes and then we taste, and then, we actually begin a little bit of digestion in our mouth and in our stomach. So it's a very long and complicated process. And if you're going to be doing a 3-hour race, at some point you do need fuel. Like, you can't just trick yourself into thinking like, oh my God, I've eaten.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think if you're getting into that last 10, 15 minutes and you're just like, I need a little boost, I need a little something.
Yeah.
This is a good time to try.
I don't know why you're not drinking sugar during the race, man. It can only help.
Oh, dude,
you're not going to lose.
I am.
You are.
Oh,
okay, yeah. I just feel like everybody should have sports drink if the race is, based on this science, if the race is of any duration. But really, like, if it's longer than half an hour, it's just like kind of a safety net for your glycogen and your blood sugar, like, especially if it's later in the day and you're not sure about how you've eaten for your meals and stuff. That sports drink, you should just always have it. Training, like, you don't probably need it for a long ride, but...
So I've done two really stupid things in my life around this. The first is a week after my senior year in cross country in college, I ran the Philadelphia Marathon because I was like, I'm in good shape, which I didn't train for at all, and it was really dumb. And also, I had never ever eaten or drank anything but water on one of my runs. So that's what I did for the marathon. And I didn't.
Yeah, that's actually.
There's
Did you
a.
finish?
Oh, I finished. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, I was
goodness.
doing really well, and then I was doing super not well. But
Yeah.
I figured out about mile 18 that I needed to put something in my body. I was dying, and my hamstrings were all cramping up, and so at that point, about mile 20, I was doing something where I would run as long as I could, and I could only run at a certain pace, and then I'd walk, and I had to vary it. And while I was doing this running and walking, I was sobbing in the streets of Philadelphia. And so,
Oh,
like,
there's a song about that.
I
There's a
know,
song
I know,
about that.
I know, I know. And so, like, I'll never forget this. I was like, I mean, I was at like mile 23, 24, and some lady was coming by the other way. So she had like 12 miles to go or something. And she had a fanny pack on. I'll never forget her. And she looks over and she goes, "Oh, honey, it'll be okay. You're almost there." So this person who has over half the race left is consoling someone who's like almost there, because that's how I looked. And the
Yeah.
other thing I did one time is I did a 100-mile ride on Ragbri in Iowa. And I brought like Cliff Bars with me, which turns out I cannot eat while riding because they just don't go down my throat. And so then I didn't eat anything. And like mile 60, I just was like bonking horribly and I had no idea why. And then I drank a Gatorade, and it was immediately evident why this was happening, because I just felt, I went from feeling 0 to like, I was like 90% again. I was like, this is no problem to finish this. I was like struggling to go like 17 miles an hour. And then I was just back to 20, just feeling fine, normal. That was like
Yeah.
my
The
my
best
light
story I
bulb moment.
actually have. The best story I actually have about this isn't mine, it's my mom's. And so she and my dad were biking in Scotland. And, they're doing the crazy hills out there. And, she's struggling to get up a hill that's, 14% grade or something ridiculous. And he comes over to her and he's like, I have a secret. And he gives her a handful of gummy bears. He's like, whenever you think you can't go on, just take one. And like, you know, they're the sweet and sour gummy bears. So, you get a little bit distracted, but yeah, as you said, it's absolutely the sugar on your tongue gets you to the top. And he's like, I can't stay with you. So here, take a handful, put them in your bike pocket, and you can just have them as you go up the hill. Well, it's a really long hill, but she does exactly what he says. She has the gummy bears and they work. She gets to the top of this ridiculously long 14% hill and she's absolutely ecstatic. And somebody comes up to her and they're like, "What's your secret?" And at this point, she has powdered sugar all on her nose. And, and so she reaches into her pocket. There's none left. She comes out with a handful of powdered sugar and she's like, This is my secret."
It works.
So there you go.
I mean,
That sugar is
That's
the
the tip
stimulant
of the
you
week.
need.
this
Yeah.
is the no breakaways content we need right here. You really want to be fast and potentially die.
Cocaine.
That's a great story.
Yeah. Whenever you're worried about not doing well, just a little more cocaine
Yeah,
and you'll feel better.
Just a touch, not a ton. Okay, we got to move on. This is not sponsored by the MD on the show, but I gotta say, I am really glad that we have somebody like Jackie on the show to tell us about this stuff. And Jordan, I'm not really sure what value I bring, but we'll keep going. Somebody posted a comment, and I gotta say, I love when people comment on all my videos. I love interacting with you guys. We've had a ton of really positive feedback. Jordan and Jackie, I don't know if you watch the comments, but people have been saying we've been doing, like, it's getting better. Like, they said the last one, that was the best one and it really does make us feel good. Like, none of us get paid for this. We're just doing it for fun. So thank you for the feedback. But somebody asked the sticky draft. How does it work? When to use the sticky draft? Tell us about the sticky draft. So I have a ton of thoughts on this because this is like what I do is work as little as possible. But do you two want to kick it off, or you want me to?
Well, I'm more familiar with the negative aspect of the sticky draft, as in get the frick out of the way.
Oh no.
But we're not talking about that.
I don't know if that's what they were talking about, but I love the sticky draft. I am.
I was like, please bestow your wisdom.
Oh yeah. So
I am eager to hear
What
this.
could be good about this? Let's hear it.
as I've told everyone a million times, my thing is energy conservation. There are people in the game that are better than me at it, but not a ton. And like I know most of these people, and I compete with them to see who has the lowest watts per kg. So the sticky draft, what it is basically when you're riding with someone, if someone's ahead of you, you can ride behind them and you're in the draft. And in the sticky draft, it kind of sticks you onto them. So if you're in front of somebody and someone's doing a little bit more watts per kilo, you can actually slow them down. So if you get to the front of a pack, you can slow the pack down. In theory, it's hard to do. I've done it a couple times, but like to let somebody get away. If you're riding up a hill and you don't put in a little bit of an effort to get past a person, you get stuck in the sticky draft. Sorry to the person I did that to today, kind of on purpose. They beat the crap out of me anyways, but still.
Victories.
So like there is negative aspects of the sticky draft, but if you know how to deal with it, it's no big deal. In the TTTs, excuse me, when you pass someone, you want to put in a little bit of an effort. It doesn't have to be a huge effort. It's just people think you got to like plow it up to 8 watts per kilogram to get back. No. You just, when you're getting up close, you just got to put in a little effort so you don't slow down as you like catch the back of them. And if the way to use the sticky draft, if you are someone who maybe doesn't have a super high FTP, is you want to get stuck in that sticky draft and then back off your watts until you start falling off a little and just stick your watts right there. That's as low as you can go. So on climbing hills like today, on flats, I mean, like if you go to Zwift Power and you look at my race results, you'll see I'm almost always the lowest watts per kilo in my group. Or you look at Johnny Rocket, you look at Greg O'Malley, like those are the two people I know who are phenomenal at this. Holden Camo is really good at this as well.
Yeah.
Most of the big sprinters, Scott Gleason, Joel Carroll. But I would say Johnny is the best person I've ever seen, and Greg. Like, it's unbelievable. Johnny has won A races, been first place in A races, like with the volcano climb at 3.1 watts per kilo. I don't know. I mean, it's so like you need to play the sticky draft to your advantage. And if you know how to just, practice it in a group, like practice it on a free ride, just ride up, like going
Pace
half.
partners.
Yeah. I mean, anywhere, just anybody ride up going half a watt per kilo higher than someone and you'll just get stuck. See what it takes to get around them. Like if you want to figure out the sticky and see what you can do to not, once you get stuck in the sticky, see how little you can do to keep up that effort. I mean, don't be afraid to be on the back of a pack because that's like the ultimate sticky draft. You get stuck in everybody's draft and you can do way less. So that's the sticky draft. Most people view it as a negative. To me, that's Zwift craft. Like PhD level Zwift craft is how to use sticky draft to your advantage. I'm not saying I'm a PhD. I'm just saying that I am lazy. It's kind of the opposite.
Rick, hear me out. Crazy new proposal. What if for your next 6v6 you include points for the person with the lowest watts per kilo? So we actually give an award for smartest racer.
So I think. So I also want to do a 7-day stage race over 9 days. I don't remember if we talked about that on the show. We could have like an award, but so the thing is you gotta finish in the front pack, which I used to be able to finish in the front pack on most B races at like 3.2, 3.3, depending on the course.
It'd be the lowest watt per kilo who scores points, whatever that point threshold is.
Yeah. You can't just be kicked off the back because then it'd be really easy to do. I could just pedal around at one.
Not leave the. It's fine.
That was always my goal, is to be front pack, lowest watts per kilo. And then everybody calls you, everybody's like mad at you.
Suck.
I know, which I like. I enjoy that. And people are like, do more work. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. You do the work, which is always fun. All right, so let's take a draft. Oh, one big thing. I'm excited about this one. Our favorite Zwift courses. What's our favorite Zwift course to ride? What's our favorite Zwift course to race? Jordan, hit us up.
Favorite Zwift course to ride is I mean Surrey Hills is up there. I actually really enjoy that one because it's like
What?
constant. Yeah. I like the ups and downs. I like that you can break, and this is just to ride, like for a long ride. I like that you break it into it's like, oh, I'll do this 15-minute section, then this 15-minute section. I think the Four Horsemen is still my favorite overall though. I like these big climbing ones. I really enjoy them. And finishing on top of the Alp is still pretty cool. Fun 2 is pretty cool. Like I don't know, I get stuck in on these climbs and I really like them. For cruising, actually low key, Sand and Sequoias, the back half, the Sequoias part.
Yeah.
I could if they made a loop of just that, I would ride that all day because it's like constantly changing the pedal feel. And like for like a zone 2 cruisy, that's like one of my favorites.
I wish they did a whole race
Yeah.
and made a big Sequoia loop.
Yeah, it's beautiful
So
in there.
you took this a different way than I thought you were going to. I mean, I was thinking like scenery and stuff.
Oh,
And
Yeah,
like
this is
you're
just
like,
like
oh,
what
I'd like to
happens
ride hills.
on
Which when we meet each other in person, I'm gonna punch you right in the face, Jordan.
Oh, that's why we have to meet in Illinois and not like Colorado or something, is because the hills are small.
It'll be one of those things where like two skinny people are fighting and no one really gets hurt. We're just not
Right.
able to hurt each other.
Hey, I wrestled in high school, man. I might put you on the mat. I don't know what I'll do after that, but
All right.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
So-
to race,
Sorry.
I don't know. To race, I still have really great. I mean, I love that Bologna time trial, man. I think that's so dynamic. As the mass start race on that. I mean, I came second or whatever, so it's good. But I just think it's electric because at the end you're going slow and it's like really, yeah, I don't know. It's cool. Scenery on that one, you can't argue, is pretty cool. So yeah, that's probably my favorite race.
Didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming.
Full surprises.
All right,
full
Jackie, what you got?
I have to say I 110% agree on if it is a workout, scenery wise, or just getting it out of erg mode wise, like Sand and Sequoias, anything that takes me through that forest is perfect. That just on its own, like it's the right distance of hills. It can get me a little bit out of that zone 2. It can get me back under to resting. Like it's just fabulous. And I wish there was something longer that was a good version of that.
Mm-hmm.
And also it doesn't do like the whiplash twisty that you see in France.
Yeah, you're right.
That can actually make me a little seasick
I don't
sometimes.
like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little too back and forth, but yeah, Sand and Sequoias, definitely one of my favorite courses to race. Honestly, I think my favorite races, there are a lot of them, and none of them are TTs.
If I
I
had
think
something,
TTs are just painful.
if I had something queued up right there when you said there are a lot of them, I would have played all you do is win, and that would have been perfect.
Yeah, right.
That would have been so good. I was thinking that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, if I was smarter, I would have played that right when she said it.
There's all the ones that I've won on.
Yeah, not TTs. I think TTs are brutal. I think they're very critical for a long format. I think they're bread and butter of racing, but I'm never going to like a TT course because they're just painful. I think really what I like most is, these multi-day stage races, and I just like the different format, and after weeks of being on the show, you guys probably get that I really just like variety. I like thinking about things strategically. I like it when there is something unexpected. So, this past season of Zwift Premier League with changing how they're doing the intermediate points has been very exciting. And I would like to see more courses done with intermediate sprint points on multi-day stage races.
Oh.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm just going to remind Jackie that her favorite course is the one that ends up Libby Hill because she dominates that one. So
Ends up Libby Hill, but does not go up 4 times.
exactly.
That one.
Yeah, I really want to do that 7-day stage race where we would have sprinters and KOM people and KOM, QOM. I wish we had like a gender neutral term for the mountain things. We call them
Emperor
palms.
of the mountain.
Emperor of the mountain.
Yes.
I kind of like people
Yeah.
of the mountain, like palms. We call it palm. Maybe not.
You're the top person of the mountains. Yes, it's great.
Yeah, so like KOM, QOM, Emperor of the Mountain.
Mountain goat. There you go.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, who are the mountain goats? Overall GC, all that stuff. Just think like, and I love the idea of doing like a 7-day stage race, especially over 9 days when you could do it on the weekends when I have more time. But okay, so for me to ride, I always pick sand and sequoias. I love the sequoia part. I just love it. Like, I actually love the scenery in Japan. 100% love it. I do wish there were like maybe more. I mean, I bet you they'll make more loops. Like, I don't necessarily always want to be going up the mountain points. What are they called? The AOM, QOM points. Just like they're okay, but like I just don't. I like the little ones. Like I like the 4 or 5 minute one on sanded sequoias. It's like a nice if you feel like throwing in a little effort. And like the ones in Japan is so flat. It's weird. It's just a weird one. It's cool though. And there's like a lot of bike choice stuff there. Like I rode it the other day with someone. I'm sorry, this is a detour. I meant to say Japan, but like I rode someone on a gravel bike and me on a Tron. And I was staying right with this guy. And then once we got to the wood part at the top where it ends, I put 15 seconds on him just because he was on a gravel bike and I was on a Tron. And so like the bike choice is very intricate on that. Because if you're on a gravel bike, you got to make up 20, 30 seconds on the climb in order to beat somebody on a Tron coming over the top on the part that's fast for them. So I think Japan, when they expand that map, if they make longer routes, longer than like 20 minutes or whatever, they do like 30, 40, 45 minute routes through trees and all that. Like I want the tree scenery. I want it chill. Like I don't really,
down.
Yeah. Just like, but not like crazy up and down,
just like rolling, like sand and sequoias is the best rhythm.
Yeah. And it's just like a nice place to ride. To race, I like the little punch. New York is probably my favorite course that doesn't go up the mountain goat parts. The glass section I could totally do without, but I love the little rolling hills. I love how it's punchy. I love that there are some hills where you can like push up and make little breaks. I wish there was Innsbruck Ring is another one. Like I love the leg snapper.
That is a good course.
Yeah.
Terrible to ride. Fun.
Well, it's cool. I really like it because the number one, the finish is super long and can be really tactical. There's a lot of flat on it, but then there's a really hard part that can be separated. So you can ride it very smart. So like it was perfect for me because I was very punchy, like when I was in good shape, and I could just punch up it, like fly up it. But then the rest of it, I could save my energy a ton because it's so flat and potentially make me go up it faster than other people. So I really like that. And the same thing with New York. Like there's a real art to riding rollers and how you do that. And you can save tons of energy and you can make up tons of time on people by riding rollers effectively. So really any Zwift course where you can really use that advanced Zwift craft, I think it's awesome. Like I enjoyed Surrey today. Like I don't really want to race it again. But it's like I think courses where tactics can happen. But I like New York. I like the full Richmond course. I could do without cobbled climbs, but I like the full Richmond course. With those 3 in a row. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk a little bit about what's up next for Outside the Draft. So we have some fun new guests planned. Some that we can't reveal because we got to work out some details. Some that, hopefully we're going to get Eric from Zwift Insider on here, but we got to work out timing. So we are going to vary the time of the show a little bit. We got to work out schedules with Jackie and Jordan and me to kind of figure that out. But we want to have a consistent time. I think Tuesday night has worked pretty well for us, but I do notice that our like viewership is lower than it was when we were doing it on Sundays. Not that we can do it on Sundays again, but we're gonna have to figure out like another consistent time. If you guys have times that you want us to do, let us know. If there's something that makes more sense, even. But kind of in conjunction with that, we're going to turn this into a podcast as well, so that you can listen to it on your rides or whatever. Because we want to make sure this is accessible. I wasn't able to do it this week because I have a job and didn't have time to do it. So,
and I have a face for radio, so that's really the best format for me is a podcast, right?
I've been telling my wife that I'm a trophy husband for years, and she just keeps not letting me quit my job and just take care of myself. I don't understand.
You deserve
Jackie,
to be a kept man, Rick.
Come on,
that.
Jackie. You don't have to laugh that much. You can keep a straight face for a little bit and tell me how dumb I am after the show.
You keep your girlish figure intact, and for what?
I look great, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
From
you
here up where everybody sees me, I look great.
You do all that, and you take care of yourself, and she doesn't appreciate you.
Yeah.
Well, I think she appreciates me, but she'd probably appreciate me.
Not as a trophy
Appreciates the paycheck.
Yeah, not as a trophy husband, right?
Yeah. Well, this is
yeah. So no breakaways. Even though ZRL is done, we got a lot of cool stuff planned for the summer. Some really neat stuff that I think the community is gonna like. We have planned, and then if there are things that you all want on this show, I mean, it's for the viewers. We love talking about stuff. It's always super fun to sit down with Jordan and Jackie. But if there's stuff you want to talk about, like somebody commented about the sticky draft, so we covered it. This is what we're here for. We love talking about Zwift, so let us know. Let us know. So that's really it for today, Jackie. Why don't you hit us with your sponsor plugs and all that stuff?
Yep. So first sponsor plug really isn't a plug, but I just wanted to say happy 1 month anniversary to my husband John.
Yay.
Putting up with me, and definitely going to be making use of that podcast. But then my real sponsors, Sarah's the Pros Closet, has been fantastic, letting me race with a flexible schedule. Noon, which we pronounced right this time, and talked about hydration. I actually do use them every race. So
does Noon sell pink bottles?
They sell pink tablets. So my favorite, a lot of their tablets will actually dissolve. One of my favorites is pink lemonade, and that will give you a very nice pink solution.
That sounds good.
It is good. I drink this stuff religiously. And then 4-Star Endurance, my coach, and all that he puts up with from me, very, very grateful.
Awesome. Jordan, go for it, man.
Right. Well, Elevate Webaplex Pro Cycling, which we will actually be doing some professional cycling soon.
Wait, when is that? When is that? When did you say that was?
The first race weekend, and it was pretty big racing. It'll have all your, the legions and everybody out that we talk about. But June 4th, 5th, or 5th, 6th, the next weekend, and then the following weekend in Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you're within an hour, if you're within 2 hours of Tulsa, Oklahoma, come to this bike race. This is there's like 5,000 people, and now it's opened up. Yeah.
Oh.
It's the most exciting bike race you'll ever watch. Like, it's really, really good times. And so we're excited about that. You won't see me cross the line first on the first 2 stages anyway, but
are you gonna out sprint Justin Williams or anything?
I wasn't planning on it, but I got friends who can. And we got boys who can. So, hey, we're the defending champion team of Tulsa Tough. And I think we've won it like 5 times in the last 7 years or something. So not a big deal. But yeah, so if you're interested in cycling on the road, you can actually find me now with that coming shortly. And then Peak Form Coaching. Hey, if you had a little bit less of a good season than you want in the ZRL and you want the next one to be a little better, hit me up, Peak Form Coaching. We'll get you to that next level. So yeah, anyway, and thanks everybody for watching. That we've been able to keep this going for another season is awesome. And I feel like we're trying to get better each time, and you guys are watching, and that's awesome.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Hit us up, No Breakaways on Instagram. I'm going to start posting more stuff. I need on my social game, but I'm an old, crotchety man, so I'm going to yell at the clouds for a while before I do it. All right, thanks everybody, and yeah, we'll see you next time.